Hey friends, I actually have decided to take you along on my walk with me today. Um, I love nothing more than to begin my day actually in my chair, reading my Bible, praying, and just thinking on the good things of the Lord. Um, but one of the other things that I have enjoyed since retirement is, well, actually, I was doing it before retirement, but I've really was able to get into it after retirement. But it's just something that I love to do. And there's just, I don't know, something about being out in the sunshine. So let me grab my mace. Yes, I'm one of those people. After having a few encounters with not so nice dogs and with people that I felt like were following me, I just decided, even though I don't carry anything of value on me, I still value my peace. And so my little little model of mace just kind of gives me a little bit of peace. So anyway, let's go. See, can you just see the sun? You feel the sun? I can feel it in my face. I love it. There's nothing more joyful. One of the things that I always notice right away when I start walking outside is I notice the birds in the air. I don't know if you can hear them or not, but I just always start thinking about when I hear those squeaks or calls, whatever they're doing, whenever I hear them, I just always think about the fact that the Lord made them. But not only did he make them, one does not fall from the sky that he's not aware of. His eyes, the Bible says his eyes are on the sparrow. Actually, there's an old hymn, I think, that's about that too. I'm gonna have to look that hymn up when I get home. But anyway, I just love getting out in the sunshine. It's a daily walk like this is time that I can actually spend in quiet. Sometimes I'll play some music just in the background, very lightly. Just listen to some old classic hymns, or I love Shane and Shane, Selah. Just having the music on in the background sometimes will just kind of give me a little bit of music and just kind of add to the ambiance of my walk. But as I'm walking through my neighborhood, I just really will try to put my mind on the Lord. And it's always been a great time for us to just be together, and if you're a Christian, you understand what that means. You know what that means, just to be still, even though I'm not still because I'm walking, but my mind is just fully focused on the Lord. In fact, sometimes I'll pass people or things and forget where I'm at just because my mind is just so focused on the Lord and trying to hear from him. What does that mean, to hear from the Lord? I know sometimes people, especially when as a new Christian, sometimes the question is, I don't hear the voice of God, or I don't hear from the Lord. And so they're not quite understanding what that means. But actually, you probably hear more from, good morning. You actually probably hear from him more than you realize. And as you start to really intently listen and even ask for him to speak to you, and then you just pause to listen, you're going to hear him. But let me tell you what we tend to do sometimes, instead of just really focusing on whether or not God is hearing from us. Sometimes the Lord will speak to us and we just don't recognize the voice. Oh, that dog, every morning. You would think he would get used to me, but he doesn't. But they're big dogs, so I have to, okay, just a break here. So as I'm walking by these two houses here, they have some big dogs. But at one point, I don't know if you can see it now, but they have a new fence now, so I feel much safer. But At one point, the corner part of that fence right there was actually like pushed out, and I know at any moment that fence was going to fall and that dog was going to come out charging, and its bark is so ferocious. Hopefully you heard it. But I'm gonna kid you not, when I would walk by that house, I would try to like pick up my feet so ever so gently, and I would try to even sneak by, because I wanted so badly for that dog to not bark at me, because its bark is just, I'm not kidding, it's just ferocious. And it just causes a little bit of anxiety every time I pass by. So what I'll usually do is cross the street. So I'm walking across the street from that dog. So I was so relieved when I realized that the owner put up a new fence. It just made it made my day so much better. But honestly, I still walk across the street because I just don't want to hear the bark. But anyway, that was kind of a sidebar. Bonus conversation there. You're welcome. Anyway, as I'm walking, back to the voice of the Lord, as I'm walking and trying to listen for the voice of the Lord, here's kind of what happens is I'll usually start with just, a thankful heart. And what I do is I just look around, and, the Bible talks about how nature itself will tell you that there's a God, because there's a lot of people who say, oh, there's not a God. But honestly, guys, if you just look around at nature, God reveals himself in the very things that he makes and creates. Dan and I, in fact, were walking around one of the stores over the weekend and looking at some flowers to plant in the front yard. And when we came upon some very unique flowers that I have never seen before, and they were just so beautiful and so unique, but delicate, if you can understand what I mean. They were just so delicate. I'll have to take a picture and show you. But anyway, looking at these flowers, I just said to Dan, I said, how can people look at a flower like that and think that it just came from nothing? There had to be, gotta run across. There had to be a creator, right? That flower could not have just come from nothing, especially because not only is it unique, they're just beautiful, delicate. And anyway, so that's one of the things I do in my walk is I just really start trying to pay attention to all of the things just that are right around me in creation itself. And so, and then as I focus on that, I just generally find myself amazed at his creation and blessed that I know the creator. Does that make sense? It sounds a little self-serving, I think, sometimes, but at the same time, I just feel so blessed that the one who created the trees, the birds, the plants, the flowers, even the dirt, the God of heaven, I don't know, it just makes me feel blessed that he chose to have a relationship with me. He could have just said, nah, pass, don't want that one, because honestly, I think I would have passed on me. And, that sounded self-deprecating. Didn't mean that. But you know what I'm saying? It's just a blessed feeling that I have. And it also kind of reminds me whenever I get into that mindset of thinking about that, it just reminds me that if he's watching his creation, the birds in the air, and he knows when they fall, his eyes are on them, how much more are his eyes on me? How much more are his eyes on my loved ones? And how much more does he care for us? I'm reminded even of Matthew chapter 6, where he talks about seeking him first. Like, if we seek God first, he talks about how he has clothed the fields with flowers, beautiful flowers, and he has clothed the birds in the air with such brilliant feathers of color, and he created them, all of that. And so, having done all of that, you can't help but wonder why we can't trust that he's going to take care of us. And man, I marvel at that sometimes, how he is trying to show us in his word that he cares for all of his creation. And yet I can't trust him for the little things, much less the big things. So my mind goes there quite a bit, and as I'm thinking on those things, I can many times, if I just be quiet, my mind will just continue to feed on the goodness of God and how blessed I am. But there's a lot of times when he will begin to instill words, and they're words that I wouldn't necessarily think myself. And so, sometimes I've heard him say to me, I love you more than that. I've heard him say, are you going to trust me, or are you going to trust yourself? Are you going to lean on me, or are you going to continue to control? See, these are words that I would hear that I wouldn't necessarily think on my own self, right? Because if you know me at all, I'm very much like to control everything that I can, as most women are. So I listen to those words when I know, oh, look, I don't know if you guys can see it. I don't usually have water in this area, but right out in the middle of that irrigation ditch, there's a duck. Oh, where did he go? Oh, he's off to the side. I don't know if you can see him. Oh, there he goes. How cool. See, that's just one of those blessings. Like, in the middle of my neighborhood, amongst all this junk. Look at this. So what was happening a couple weeks ago, we don't normally get water in this irrigation ditch. And I think, now that the snow melt is all coming, they're diverting some water back in our community, which is amazing. I'm so thankful for that. But so as I was walking by here, one of the days there was a city truck that was out here cleaning out the grails here where the water stops and goes under the bridge. And there's a couch. I'm thinking somebody might have actually been living under this bridge. There's a couch. There was a mattress out here at one point. It's probably still here, but you could tell it's lots of things that people probably laid on underneath it. So unfortunately, somebody lost their home. But anyway, this is what I was talking about in just being aware of, the blessings in your life. So, good morning.
Good morning.
And so anyway, just walking by that and you see all that trash, my first thought sometimes is like, really? Are they going to come back and remove that junk? I mean, hopefully somebody will. But as with many cities, sometimes that's not a priority. And unfortunately, that's on my walk every day. So what a joy, though, to see a duck. just going down that little irrigation ditch. Like, I just find such great joy in that. I don't know. That was just my little God wink, I guess, this morning. Just a little blessing that he will give me during that time. So, but anyway, back to listening to the voice of the Lord. Sometimes when I am going on and, I start hearing the voice that it's just not necessarily something I would think on my own. I can convince myself that, oh, that's my own thoughts, but I know that that's the voice of the Lord. The word says, my sheep will hear my voice. They will know my voice. And I just know the voice of the Lord. And that was certainly not my voice. And so that's one that I will definitely listen to. And, a famous quote, I think it was Van Gogh, the famous artist, made the statement that always stuck with me. And it says something like, if the voice in your head tells you you can't paint, by all means, paint. And I thought to myself, that's actually a good measure of understanding to the voice of the Lord, because God's voice is never condemning. It never makes you feel bad. God's voice is always encouraging, uplifting, and always leading you to take a higher road and not to dwell in your mistakes or not to dwell in somebody else's mistakes. So with Van Gogh, what he is saying is, if you're wanting to be an artist and you keep feeling that pressure or that push to paint, and then you hear another voice that says, you can't do it, you can't paint. Van Gogh was saying, by all means, paint. So follow the voice of truth, follow the one where you know that it's the voice of the Lord. That's how I take it. That's how I even will listen when I'm listening to something, that just pops in my head sometimes randomly. I will hear a voice that will pop into my head and I'm like, why would I think that? And if it's in any way hateful or prideful or condemning or controlling or immediate, I will take a pause, because if there's any doubt that it's not the voice of the Lord, I'm going to pray on it. Not to say that the voice of the Lord won't be immediate sometimes too, because there have been times when the Lord has pressed upon me, go talk to that person. And I did, and I was always thankful, because I knew that the Lord was pursuing that person for some reason, or that person was going through something and just needed to hear a word of encouragement. So, yeah, that's kind of what my walks do. And I just love them so much, because it really is my time with the Lord. And you got to join me today. I don't walk with a partner a lot. I've occasionally, in the past, I would walk with different people that would want to come walk with me, and it was great times. I enjoyed my moments and times with them when I did it, but I always have that time of I miss my time with God. And so I don't know if I'm going to take you on my full walk, just because I still want some of that time with him. But I don't know, I just felt it in my mind and in my heart today to just bring you along for a little while and talk to you about it. Here's another kind of thing that I listen to. There's this elementary school right here in part of my walk that I walk by, and I can hear the screams and the joy from children playing outside. And that just always kind of warms my heart, especially if I'm having a heavy day, a day of just really feeling heavy in my soul or whatever. It's just a joy to hear children playing. New life, right? New generation coming up. And it just makes me think of, just newness. I don't know. I just am really, really thankful that I do have these children in this path. It just, I don't know, brings a smile to my face. Anyway, so I don't know if you're even getting in any of my scenery here. Right now I'm kind of walking alongside a pretty busy road, but it's cut out for me really well. You get to see lots of greenery. Looks like the grass was just freshly mowed. Anyway, and when I go on my walks, I'm not trying to run a marathon. I'm not trying to beat a speed. I'm not trying to even work hard, to where I can say that, I did 3 miles in an hour. But I will tell you, at one point, before I had my back injury a couple years ago, okay, little confession on me. I am definitely a person that likes to compete. So from childhood, I wanted to be the best. And if I couldn't be the best, I probably wouldn't do it. Like one thing I know I can't do is I could never run. Like running was never my thing. For one thing, I didn't like the pain in the side that I got when I ran. But I also just never felt like I knew how to run well. So I was a runner. I was not. Loved baseball. And when I played baseball, I loved everything about it, but the running the bases, I literally have stories I could tell you, many, many stories about me and running between bases and just falling on absolutely nothing. My legs just stop and I go down. So I have many stories, but anyway, I'm very competitive. When I play games, I play to win. And so when I retired back in 2023, I first started just taking my walks very innocently, like I am now, and wasn't looking for a particular speed, particular distance, or anything. My goal was I'm walking for 30 minutes, and I'm going to enjoy being in the sunshine, doing it on my time, not having to, work it between meetings or lunch or before work type of thing. I was just going to enjoy my retirement and take in a little bit of exercise. And so when I first started out, that's what it was. And then I'm going to tell you, before long, it started to become, okay, how far can I walk in that 30 minutes? And which meant I would have to walk faster and faster and faster. And I actually got up to, I want to say I got up to almost 4 miles an hour, which was quite the job for me to be able to do that quick. I don't run at all. I don't jog. It was purely a fast walk. And some of you might be thinking, 4 miles an hour isn't that big. It was for me. So it was a big competition for me. And then it wasn't long after I started hitting that 4 mile or close to that 4 mile when I had this sudden back injury that really impacted the nerves in my back and legs, and walking became painful, very, very painful. And that's a story for another day. But in my pain, I began to really just kind of take a step back and look at it and think, you know what, it's interesting that, when I first started out, it was easy, it was light, I was enjoying the sunshine, I was enjoying just that time alone with the Lord, and really seeking God on my walks and listening for Him. And then it became a competition, and it became about something totally different. It really became about me competing against myself on how far I can walk, how long I could walk. And my 30 minutes turned into an hour, which isn't a bad thing. However, it was my heart in it at that point. So I had to sit down, and I'm going to tell you guys, I said I was going to save this for another time, but I'll tell you just a little bit more, and then I'll save it for another time. But after that injury, and I got to where I couldn't walk anymore, I was very discouraged. And I remember even thinking, Lord, this time was my time with you, and I loved that time with you, and that's been taken away. And so I ended up going outside and just sitting in one of our patio chairs outside, and trying to do a very similar thing, just in the chair, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't, just didn't feel the same. And I mourned the loss of being able to walk, but then the story gets much bigger from that. Just the journey I had to go through with that pain. But one thing that I feel like the Lord really showed me during my time of sitting down was that what I started out doing as good, I took over. And my original motive is just to get out into the sunshine and spend time with the Lord, ended up being a competition and more of a, this is what I do, as opposed to my relationship with God. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just felt like the Lord during that time just really began to show me that He misses that time with me as well. And so I did have to go through, quite a bit of journey of pain and injury and so many other things during that time. But here's the one thing I can tell you is, again, part of that story is God healed me earlier this year, January 30th, and He healed me, and it really enabled me to be able to walk again. And I got to a point where I had to use a cane, but I was healed miraculously, and I started my walks again. And I am intent this time, and really dedicated this time in making sure that it's not about how fast I can walk, how long I can walk. It really is just me getting out of the house. I have a path now that I know takes me approximately 30 minutes. I'm not trying to beat that time. I'm not trying to do anything. In fact, I probably won't meet my 30-minute time frame today because I brought you along. So I'll probably go a little bit longer just to have that time of fresh air, sunshine, and the Lord. There's a dog coming at me, so I'm going to cross over. It's an owner with a dog. Beautiful dog. It looks really, really sweet, but I just give him space. That's kind of what I do. But good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Good.
Beautiful dog.
Thank you.
But anyway, whenever I see dogs coming, I'll just kind of move over to the street and let them go by. Because some dogs are just, they want to jump on you, or they want to play with you, or want you to pet them, and I just don't want to disturb their owner's walks either. But anyway, I forgot where I left off. But anyway, I'm so glad you joined me for my walk. But I've got just a few more minutes before I head back into my neighborhood and home. And just kind of wanted to give you a little glimpse into my morning walk. And I'm so thankful that the Lord has given me the ability to walk again, and just loves me enough to allow me to have this time of joy. There's days I don't want to get out and walk because I'm just feeling lazy, but for the most part, if I can get out here, it energizes me both physically and spiritually. And it just really helps my mind as well, getting the sunshine. So if you're not sunshine, so if you don't have a daily routine of getting out and walking in this beautiful earth and looking for God in the middle of His creation, and just thinking upon Him, try it. Even if you're not a Christian, get out. And if you've been wondering if there is a God, or not sure if there is a God, and you've had question after question, go walking. Ask the Lord to show you Himself in His nature. It's beautiful out here, even in the midst of construction. You'll see the areas of construction where man is designing and man is creating. But that's how we are like our God, is because He is a creator and we are created in His image. So we are the created who will create. Samantha reminded me of that the other night, which I loved. But anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed day. Hope you've enjoyed this. But today is going to be a beautiful day. Happy Thursday, all. Thanks for joining me. Bye.